In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to replace the ABS pump and module on a Mark 6 Fiesta. Now before we get started guys, there's just a couple of things to bear in mind. The first of which is people are going to tell you that you can't do this job on the driveway because you're going to need some kind of software diagnostic tool to do an ABS pump service bleed. Now that is like 50% true. I've done this job before and you can just bleed the brakes on these using the old two-man method, you know, one person in the car, one person down on the brakes. That gets enough pressure back in the pedal that I've driven it around for like a year. Plus also, if you do want to go and do a service bleed, it gives you enough of a pedal to take it to a local garage where they can just do the service bleed and the rest of the bleeding for you. So really you don't need to do that, but at the end of the video I will show you a free software you can get if you do want to do that. And then the other few things is just there's about 3 tools you're going to need, or 3 ththings you're definitely going to need to do this job on the driveway. So the 3 things you're definitely going to need, you're going to need a decent flare nut spanner set with particularly a 13mm and a 11mm because that's the size of the flare nuts on the ABS pump. Some brake fluid, can't go without that. And also a bleeder. I do have a video on my channel if you want to make your own homemade one like that. But other than that guys, let's get stuck in with changing the ABS module on a Mark 6 Fiesta. The ABS pump module assembly on a Mark 6 is behind the battery tray on the right. You should see it here. To get to it, remove the battery and its tray. The tray is held in with 3 13mm bolts. And now that's out of the way, you can see it more clearly. But we do want to make more access easy for ourselves. So start by removing the wipers. Then the 2 plastic clips either side, then the plastic shroud, but be careful not to snap it. On this lower piece is 4 7mm bolts, 2 on the top and 2 below. Remove these, then remove the weirdly heavy piece of plastic. Now the access is way better, and you can slacken off the 10mm bolts on the left and the right of the module. Now undo the reservoir, and if you want to evacuate the fluid with a turkey baster so you don't lose as much fluid, but you still will lose a lot of fluid, then you can. Slide a drain pan underneath the back of the gearbox area, then set about undoing the flare nuts. This is an extremely messy job and these can be really tight, so take your time. Fluid will start to pour out and this is just something that makes this such a messy job, but it's okay to let it drip down onto the back of the drain pan, and there's no particular order to just take them all off. And once all off, undo the mounting bolts and you should see a third at the bottom, which can be accessed by twisting the bracket round, and then you can pull the ABS module assembly out. It's hard to show on camera down there, but to remove the plug, use some pliers to grip the pressing points and pull it back and up to release. Reinstalling is literally just a reverse of what you've just done. Remount it, then redo the lines, then plug it back in. So guys, really quickly, I just want to run you through the free software you can get if you do own a Ford. It's called FORScan. Put some screenshots up here. The reason I'm not going to sort of run you through this is because I know everyone doesn't, one, have access to it, and two, not everyone wants to try stuff like this. It's a little bit specialist in a way, but really it's a free software. It's how I found out the codes of what was wrong with my Fiesta and why the ABS light was on. All you need is the software and one of these USB cables that goes from the laptop to a thing, and then basically you can do a service bleed, you can read the ABS, you can even read the airbags on this and also the engine codes. But yeah, that's basically what you can do if you want to do it at home, but unless you sort of know the ins and outs of stuff like this, I'd probably recommend leaving it to a dealer. By all means, learn it for yourself. I certainly have. But yeah, it's a bit of a specialist software. Not everyone's got access to it, so I'm not going to show you how to do it in this video, but it is another option if you want it. Now to bleed the brakes. Start at the back, and you should start on the wheel that's furthest from the reservoir. Crack the bleed screw loose, then get someone to press on the brake pedal, then tighten. Repeat this over and over until no bubbles are seen. I do have a full guide on my channel on how to do a two-man bleed method. Now for the fronts. Make sure to keep the brake fluid topped up so you don't run dry and reintroduce more air into the system, and eventually you should have a solid pedal without the need to do an ABS service bleed. So guys, that brings us to the end of the video, and like I just said, you don't need that FORScan technology or anything like that to bleed the brakes on these and get a nice firm pedal, because the brakes have been bled by hand and the pedal is fine, to be honest with you. If you do want to go and bleed the brakes properly and have a service bleed done, then you can just take it to a local garage and they'll be more than happy to do that for you. But other than that, really simple. Guys, I just want to reiterate that if I got a local quote from a garage, they said anywhere this job could take like 600 quid to like over £1,000 to do. One, because they're going to want to use a new pump, and also because they say that you need coding, and that is true to an extent. If you get a complete matching ABS pump and module, then you don't need to code it, but if you don't, then you do. So obviously that part's going to take up a lot of money. They're probably going to want to do it a little bit more like in depth than I've done, where I've sort of just let the fluid all rain out over the bottom of the chassis, which is quite a mucky way of doing it, but it's the way I do it. So yeah, but other than that, this job cost me 30 quid for a second-hand ABS module and pump, maybe 20 quid's worth of brake fluid, and then just the tools I've got and a couple of hours of my time on the weekend, and yeah, and now it's back to normal. Also, I will just say quickly that any ABS lights that are on the dashboard usually go away once you've done this, because it's one of those systems that sort of like it self-certifies itself in a way. If they don't, then there's probably other issues going on, and I would recommend going to a garage and getting it plugged in properly. Yeah guys, hope you've enjoyed the video, hope you have learnt something, hope you can do this yourself. Not a massive job, but it's just one of those mucky jobs that I hate doing. Please don't forget to like the video, don't forget to leave me a comment, don't forget to subscribe, and keep enjoying your modified cars, and I will see you in my next video.